welcome to episode 3 of the Slow Pace Knitting Space. My name is Michelle Matthews, and it is Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021, and I'm coming to you from Northern Alberta, Canada. This is a knitting podcast where I talk about knitting and designing, and also I like to talk about embracing a slow pace mindset when it comes to things like how do I approach knitting and designing where I'm at right now, and accepting where I'm at right now and working forward with that. And so actually the last 2 weeks is a really good example of that. This podcast is coming to you more than 2 weeks since my last one, which is a big podcasting no-no. You're supposed to be super consistent and regular, and yeah, well, I'm not. And that's a little bit intentional. I have really good excuse though. I have a good reason for being late this time, and that is that on Thursday I had a wisdom tooth extraction surgery. I went under and everything, and honestly my reaction was, isn't this the one where everyone makes fools of themselves on the internet? I did not. Although when I kind of awoke and the guy was like, okay, we're just gonna sit you up right away, and I was like, no, and I had a little tear, and he said, it's okay, the medicine makes everybody cry. And before I left, I heard someone from behind another curtain, and the nurse who was with them was like, it's okay, the medicine makes everybody cry. And I was like, oh, I guess it does. So all this to say, Thursday, Friday, like last weekend sort of time would have been perfect, and ideally when I would have liked to film and edit and put out this new podcast video, but well, it wasn't. And I was thinking ahead of time, I was like, I'm not going to want to do this right after surgery, so I should knit as much as I can and have something worth showing and film it in the week prior to the podcast. And I was like, all right. And I did that. And then when the time came, I was like, you know what? I have so much to do to get ready for this. I have, school with the kids because we're not going to do school Thursday, Friday. And then I have groceries to get. So, which for us means driving in an hour to the city and buying groceries, and that takes up half the day or the whole day and coming back. So I realized that I wasn't really living out the heart and the message of slow-paced knitting space if I was working myself to the wire and like squeezing and pushing and forcing it to fit in. It wasn't going to work. And so here I am now doing a lot better and really making it work. And I just want to get one more thing out of the way, which is I woke up from my surgery with this little scrape here on my face. And so if you're the sort of person who just watches podcasts instead of knitting or crocheting or cross-stitching while you do it, and you're staring at my face the whole time going, what is that? Did she leave some jam? No, it's getting better, but I didn't want to cover it up with makeup, because if you have this healing thing, do you really want to smother it with whatever? So there we go. And those of you who are knitting, just keep looking at your knitting until I have something to show you. So I guess the first thing that comes up when you're watching these things though is, what am I wearing? And I've shown this on my first episode. This is my On the Spice Market shawl, and I'm gonna hold it steady for a decent amount of time so you can actually look at it. And it's on Ravelry, and this is probably my go-to shawl. It's really warm and colorful. I like having almost monochrome, not monochrome, I like my dark green, my navy, my black and gray, and then with a pop of color for the accessories. I love color so much. Everyone says that. I really do, and so do you, and I really like it for my accessories. I'm also wearing something I didn't even show before because it's totally new. I'm wearing my Torg anklets. I made ankle socks with Torg Socks, and there is no dignified way to show socks to the camera when you're wearing them. I tried. But you know what? Take a look at how long my legs look now. Like, who's 5'3" here, right? It's me. But not when I sit like that. So I'm gonna take them off to show you, just one of them. So this is, I'm gonna talk a bit more about this in the FO section, but I just wanted to show my Torg ankle sock because it's what I'm wearing. All right, so to business. In a meeting, when they have a formal structure and, you know, I move that we start the meeting and I second, when they have that sort of meeting, they start with their old business. And this is why it feels so natural for everyone to start with their FOs, because it's very likely to be old business that we've talked about a lot. We'll get it out of the way and then do the new business. So, old business. First, I finished off, First, I finished my baby set and sent it away to my brother and fiance and baby. And I'm going to put right here the video that I took talking about that. Hi, today is Thursday, February 18th, and I just wanted to show the finished baby set before I give it to my brother. So I've shown this before. This is a combination of the Biddy Foothill Pullover by Laura Spargo Anderson and Composite by Kelly Van Nykirk. And last time I showed these mitts and they were a whip and now they are an FO. Last time I had them fully knit, but what I have done since then is I duplicate stitched onto the snowflake. It was this light blue color, and I duplicate stitched with the Red Heart Soft and the turquoise on top. And duplicate stitch is when you take your yarn as a long thread and you take your needle and you sew or embroider right over top of the stitches, following the path the yarn and the stitches takes, to mimic the look of the stitch. And so it's a good way to do something like this, or change the color or fix a mistake without like having to use a third color while you're knitting, or to take it all out or something. It's a good way to fix a quick mistake in color work if you want to fix the mistake. But I didn't want to knit this with 3 colors. I really like, though, how the addition of that third color really makes the snowflake pop. I think that makes it match the shirt really well. Pardon? Also, I finished, oh boy, this was a trip and a half, I tell you. They did in fact end up as leg warmers. So I knit the first sock, knit the second, and right before the heel turn I ran out of this blue yarn. I took pictures of this process, so I'm going to throw them in as I talk. I ran out of the blue yarn, and I undid the toe of the first sock and attached my yarns and started knitting from the first sock until the 2 socks were at the same point, which was the last row of the gusset. Then I took the light blue color and I finished the foot and toe, and I didn't sew it together, but I just took a look and see what I thought about it. And you know, it looked fine, but it wasn't something that I was really happy with, or like it just didn't quite have that feel of a finished item to me. I just didn't really quite like it, so I took the other sock that was not finished and I pulled it out and knit a second cuff on to make it leg warmers. And so seeing them two beside each other like that, I really like the leg warmers better than the socks. So I pulled that out and finished it too. I considered picking up on here and knitting a foot on, but I think that leg warmers will be more functional than the socks right now. Anyway, well, no, that's not true. They have their own purposes, but I like the leg warmers. I think they'll be good for putting over top of jammies if the nights are cold or doing that same thing in the daytime. And there will be lots of time to knit my niece socks. So yeah, I like how this set looks. It's kind of not your standard baby set, and I think I like that about it. The leg warmers, the mitts, and the little shirt, and I think they look really nice together. I'm especially actually really proud of the mitt. I love how that blue pops out. So that's the baby set, and I thought I'll probably end up giving this to my brother before the next episode. Or at any rate, I wanted to give it to them before I show everyone else on the internet. So I recorded this today, and the next podcast will be, I guess you're watching it, so back to your regular scheduled episode. And now, to my next FO. I finished this sweater. This is the flax sweater by Tin Can Knits, and I heavily modified it with colorwork motifs from 5 different sources, and I will link all those down below. They're also on my project notes. On Ravelry, I put in all of my projects. I put in project notes of where I got things, modifications I made. I try not to give important pattern details away if it's a paid pattern, but I do make notes of everything I change that will make sense to anybody who is also looking at the pattern. So, last time I had finished the color work, and I had made this light pink marker of where the first ball of yarn ran out, and the sleeve. Okay, very nice. And I also put in this dark purple marker of where I was last time, so I actually did quite a bit. I finished the sweater, and then I also did the sleeves. And I just want to talk about binding off something like this, especially sleeves, for a moment. When you bind off, things are normally like, your average bind off is kind of tight. I forgot something. I'm just going to go get it real quick so I can show you what I mean. Okay, so this is a leg warmer. I don't remember what it's called, but it's a free pattern from Pearl Soho, and it's knit, and it's kind of a spirally, not quite broken rib pattern. But I can always tell which end is the cast on and which end is the bind off, because my cast on is significantly stretchier than my bind off. Like, this is really tight. I cannot pull it more, whereas this one just goes and goes. And so there's ways to cast on and bind off that makes it more stretchy. I almost exclusively cast things on now with a twisted German cast on. That might not be what it's called. But I will post a link to my favorite tutorial up here and in the description box below for my favorite cast on tutorial. And also, I'm talking about it in a bit, my favorite bind off to make things stretchy. So there's different ways to bind off a sleeve or a sock that you want them to be stretchy. The sock is going to be at the top of your leg, the widest part. When I first started knitting socks, I liked knitting top down, partly for that reason, is because it was going to be stretchier if I started with the cuff. Because my cast on was stretchier, starting with that would be stretchier, it would fit better. It wouldn't be tight. And I have a pair of socks where I bound them off. They were toe up, and so I bound off the cuff, and they're a little bit tight to put on. So when it comes to sleeves and things, I heard rumors and I looked around to find stretchy bind offs. And so I'm going to put a link up here in that fancy little more information box and in the description box below to my favorite bind off, which is so stretchy. And if you see, some stretchy bind offs kind of flare it out a lot at the end. I don't like that. So I found one that is a no flare stretchy one, and it just goes. It's really nice. So I use that every time I'm binding off a sleeve or the body of something. Look how this holds in instead of flaring out. That's what we want. And so that's what I did for these, and so they will feel really natural when he wears them. So I worked on this really hard to finish that. That and the baby set, and that's what I got done before my surgery. No, it's not. And I finished up Mock Sadness, the first ankle sock of Mock Sadness. I really like this. This is by Hellislent. It's one of the 4 warm-up patterns for Sock Madness, and sign-ups for Sock Madness are over now, and we're waiting for the first pattern, which is the qualifying round pattern, to drop. So the qualifying round will weed out the people who, I don't know, it's going to weed people out because there's just so many, and it's a competition. So they have a qualifying round. Anybody who finishes the qualifying round socks in the 2 weeks will be put onto a team, and there's 7 to 10 teams of like 40-ish people, and these teams are of like speed. So if you're a super fast knitter, you're going to be put on a speed of people who are in your competition bracket, people who are just as fast as you, and it's going to be a real competition. And if you're a slower knitter like me, my first year I was put on like the slowest knitter team, and so we're competing against people who aren't just gonna push us out of the race before we even get our cuff done. It's really fair. I like that. And so for the next, all but the last round, every round you get a new pattern, and you're racing against the people on your team to weed it down to finally one person left from each team, and they all go head to head. And of course, one of the faster groups is going to win, but that way more people get to play for longer. Otherwise, if they just did it by the fastest people, then all the fastest people would win every round, and everyone else would just get like 1 or 2 rounds in. And so this makes it a lot more fun, a lot more fair. I really like the way they've gone about it. But so they start off with a qualifying round to kind of sort people out into their groups and weed out people who aren't ready for this, I think. And on that note, they have warm-up patterns, and in between every round they have warm-up patterns, because of course the fast people need something to do while they're waiting. They'll knit this pair of socks up in 3 days. There's still the rest of the 2 weeks. What are they supposed to do? And last year there was a woman who knit a sweater while she was waiting, and I was so impressed, and she ended up winning, I think. But it's so tight in the last. So I just want to show this. I made a modification. In Sock Madness, you're not allowed to modify the competition socks. This is a warm-up sock, so I can do whatever I like. And so it's really hard to see. When you're using variegated yarn, it's always going to be hard for your pattern, your stitches to show up. They show up best on tonal or solid color. But I didn't mind, and I wanted to use up one of the oldest yarns I had, so I did it anyway. But if you can see, there's a bit of like a cable braid that goes down, and it only went choo choo choo, or that far. And I really liked how it looked. I didn't want it to end in the middle of my foot, so I extended it longer before tapering it down into the point. And in a competition, that won't be allowed, except I'm going to be a cheerleader and not on a team. And the official cheerleaders, I talk so fast I can't breathe. The official cheerleaders will get all the patterns, they'll get to knit, but they're not going to get pushed out. If they finish the pattern for that 2 weeks, they'll get the warm-up pattern just like everyone else, but you are allowed to modify it. And in competition, it is so tight, they want everyone to do the same work that there's no modifications unless you want to make it longer. So there's this really nice lace. I don't know if my phone really picks up close view, but there's this really nice lace that goes down here, and then it ends up being just at the bottom. So yeah, I finished this one, And I started the cuff and the heel flap on the next one. This one is at the identical spot that one was last video. I took a video for this second cuff of right before when I needed to fold it over. I took a video, just a small clip showing that, so it would be easier to understand, because I know in the last video it wasn't too clear, I think, to picture what exactly I was saying. So I'm gonna pop that in right here. So this is the cuff for my Mock Sadness anklets. It is mostly stockinette with one row right in the middle, and that row is going to create the picot edge. I'm right now ready to do the next step, which is going to be to fold it, making these nice bumps, and I'm going to knit it together as I go along, and so it will be like that. Something really special happened to me last week. On the morning of my surgery, I checked my Instagram and found out that I had won a giveaway from my local yarn store, Hippie Strings, and I'd pick it up that day. So I won the giveaway, and then after my surgery, my husband says, "Hey, we went to Goodwill and I got you something," and he pulls out season 2 of Gilmore Girls, and I still had a lot of that medicine in, so I just about like cried. I was so surprised and happy. And so between Hippie Strings and my husband, it turned this surgery into this really nice time. I spent the next 3.5 days in my bed watching Gilmore Girls and knitting, so it was like this recovery, self-care knitting time, and it was so nice. And you know, 10 of 10 would recommend. I would do that, you know, every couple of months. Maybe not, like every year. It was just so nice to sit and knit and watch TV and have milkshakes and coffee. And I mean, I did have a giant ice pack strapped to my face for 3.5 days, and every couple of hours I'd go and switch out the ice cubes. But it's okay. It actually felt really good. You know, it was kind of an inconvenience, but whenever it would start to melt and I wouldn't wear it while I was changing it, like my face would warm up and it would start to hurt, so it actually felt really good, but definitely not how I want to podcast. So I'll show you what I got for the giveaway. So I got, first was this travel cup, and it says "Knitter's Gonna Knit." I don't like sassy sayings, so I like this. Knitter's gonna knit. As opposed to shove off, I'm knitting, you know. But I really like this one. I'm not allowed to use straws for 6 weeks because they're too forceful for my injury. But this is gonna be perfect for summer knitting, if summer ever comes back. I also got from Tanglewood Apothecary this bath salts, and it is lively lemongrass, and that's not a word, calendula. I know what a doula is, but I don't think that is what a calendula is. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. I didn't want to have a hot bath with an ice pack because I thought it might melt faster, like that would kind of defeat the whole purpose. So I've been saving that. And then next I got from Ginger Snap Yarns this mini set, Mia Moore set of mini fingering weight skeins. There doesn't seem to be a colorway. One's pink and it has stellina in it. Ooh, can you see the sparkles? Another one is like kind of variegated red, pink, white. So I don't know what I'm going to use these for, but I'm so happy. And then last, we got this little sock project bag, also from Ginger Snap. It says love on it, and it has like this little progress keeper. I didn't even notice that till the 3rd day. Here. And the inside fabric is more hearts, and they're so bright and fun. And I kept my Torg socks in this while I knit them over the weekend. So, yeah. All of that for my giveaway. Thank you so much. I felt so special, like it could not have come at a better time. And it just, I was in like this drug-induced, gift, recovery, relaxing, induced euphoria all weekend. And every time I saw a member of my family, I was like, ah, you know, I really love you so much. And my husband was really a rock star all weekend. He cooked for the kids and played video games, and they watched and played with them and sent them outside, and he did everything all weekend, and I watched a lot of TV. And he made me milkshakes like every night. So I had all this knitting time and this recovery, sit in bed and knit. I had all this knitting time, and I finished a few things. The first one is I made that neck warmer that my son was asking for. And so this, I took a pattern called Ribby Neck Warmer, and it was meant for a little bit bigger kids or smaller yarn, I'm not sure. It said to cast on like 70 stitches, and I cast on 36 or 40, and yeah, it's ribbed, 2x2 rib. It fits just barely over his head and comes in. He doesn't like it because he said it's too warm. What can you do? My son doesn't always like wearing the things I make for him, but he really likes it when I make him something. Like, he's all excited to tell me what he wants it to look like and what he wants it to be, and then wearing it is a little bit less exciting to him. And you know, he's 5. He doesn't understand the work that goes into it. Like, he doesn't understand that when he puts it on and says, okay, thanks, I don't want to wear it, that he doesn't understand that that's kind of rude. He's happy to see it, move to the next thing. So, but I finished it up. This is knit from like Red Heart Soft for some of these, and some of it's loops and threads impeccable. Patons Canadiana. We got some Karen Simply Soft, some unidentified purple yarn. Really just, it's 100% acrylic from just yarn that I had, mostly. I did buy the orange and yellow just for this, but yeah. And I think my daughter will choose to wear it sometimes. I've seen a lot of stuffed animals sleeping in this since I made it. It's how it goes with kids. Everything has other uses that you would never have thought of. Okay, and so also my last knitting, I worked really hard all weekend to make these socks, to finish them up, because I wanted to make ankle socks that would use up some of my older yarn, and I wanted to knit up a smaller size of the Torg socks to see how the numbers work, play around with it a little bit. So I knit these. This is going to be the medium size of my Torg socks, and it has an Eye of Partridge heel, which is probably my favorite. I just like how it looks. I spend a lot of time working on writing up my Torg Socks pattern. I have 4 sizes, and normally on sock patterns I'm the small size, and I want my patterns to be a little bit more size inclusive, to fit more people. I want more people to be able to knit socks, is the end of the story. So for Sock Madness, one of the things that I always feel is too bad is that the minimum sock size is just that much too long for my feet, so that the socks are supposed to stretch to hug your feet, And the socks that I knit for Sock Madness are either exactly the length of my feet or a little bit bigger. So they're just really loose, and I personally can't stand wearing socks that are too big. So I have a sister-in-law whose feet are much smaller than mine. I knit her some socks I knit her some socks a few years ago when she graduated, and they're really slouchy on her, and I knit the foot like 56 stitches or something like that, because I knew that she had smaller feet than me. So I realized someone like her size, and there's lots of people with smaller feet in the world than your average Canadian or North American or European foot size. And so I want to be able to have my patterns be able to accommodate for them as well. And so my foot, which I don't consider a small foot, it's kind of your average size, is going to be medium, and I'm going to have the small size, which this pattern's gauge is weird, so the small size is going to be 45 stitches, but it will fit someone who normally knits at like a 56 stitch size. And something I did for the heel and gusset is I accommodated those for what would be the normal stitch count for that size. So this heel, flap, and gusset is kind of your standard 64 stitch size, but it is actually 55 stitches around. And same with the Torg socks for my husband, who normally takes a 72 stitch sock. This was 65 stitches, but right here for that section is more like your 75 or 72 stitches, just so that it will fit. So I'm going to have a smaller size that is for people with smaller feet, and then a medium size, which is going to be your standard 64 stitches, and a large, which is your standard 72, and then an extra large. Like, I think that's going to be mostly people knitting for men are going to want that extra large size, but it's also nice. I know a lot of people have like their calf to foot isn't quite the same, and so they could knit the larger size, the extra large for their leg, and then the large for their foot, or accommodate it that way. I just want more people to be able to knit the socks that I make, and so something else I'm going to do is I'm wearing these. Something else I'm going to do is to have two versions of my pattern. One is your standard version with the pictures and everything, and the other one is a low vision accessible pattern for people with low vision. I have been in contact a little bit with Renee Van Hoy. She's really nice. She's on Instagram and Ravelry, and she is kind of like a low vision accessible advocate, and she will work with you to check your pattern and see how it works for people with low vision. And she right now is producing like not a workbook or a pamphlet, but like a PDF with information for how to make your patterns more low vision accessible. So that's something I really want to do too, because I want more people to be able to knit my patterns. And so if you can't see well enough to see the pattern, but you can see what you're doing, then you shouldn't have to invent all your patterns or only knit vanilla socks. I think everyone should be able to do it. So I will also make a low vision accessible pattern, and I've taken pictures for the socks, so it's almost all ready to send off to a tech editor. And I'm looking soon for test knitters, so if anybody is interested in test knitting the pattern, please contact me on Ravelry or on Instagram. You can access me to the links in the description box to find me there if anyone is interested. The Torg socks are really good pattern for someone who is looking for something simple, whether you're a new beginner or you're not, or an advanced who just wants something more or less mindless. this is a good pattern for it. There's no cables, it's all slip stitches and purls, and it's cuffed down. And yeah, if you want to test knit that, let me know. That's all I have to show for my finished objects or my whips. Whips means works in progress, in case anyone's new. My finished objects and my whips, anything I got. I want to talk about a very special pattern that I'm going to be designing that is really near and dear to my heart. I've had the idea in mind for at least a year, possibly 2 years. I've always wanted to do this, and I really just kept it at there. I didn't really know what I wanted it to look like. Well, okay, it's had a lot of changes in my mind, but I wanted to knit a pattern that would be a fundraising pattern where profits from it would go to benefit the children's stollery in the Edmonton hospital. You know, the Edmonton hospital, there's only one. No, but there is one stollery. And the stollery has always had a special place in my heart because for a long time it was a second home to my cousin and his family. My cousin was diagnosed with leukemia when he was 4, I think. He had it, he went in remission, he got it again, and ultimately when he was 8, he passed away. And he would be turning 23 this year. I think this is the 15-year anniversary of when he died, and I want to put out this pattern in memory of my cousin Max to raise money for the children's stollery. And I hardly can think about the stollery without like tearing up a little bit, just because of what they do. The stollery and Ronald McDonald House are such fantastic organizations, and what they do for families and for kids, and in this scary time with uncertainty, they really bring some semblance of home and of normalcy and of happiness and brighten up the day. Like, yeah. So with that in mind, I bought this sock set from Polka Dot Creek a while ago. I bought this after the pandemic started, but back when it was summertime. And it's called Purl Together, and it comes with 2 minis. And I especially wanted to make a design with Polka Dot Creek because she once sent me, there was this, a few years ago, there was a big hashtag, get your yarn wishes granted. And so you would put out like a wish list and put it up, and somebody might come and give you a pattern or give you some stash yarn or something. And Polka Dot Creek, I think it's Shelly maybe from Polka Dot Creek, she sent me this fruitcake sock set where it was brown with reds and greens, and then a vanilla mini and a brown toffee colored mini, which I haven't used because it's so special to me. But she sent it to me, and it was so nice of her. And so as a thank you, I kind of just wanted to design something with one of her sock sets. And it was summertime, so I wanted to knit with a summery one and not a Christmassy one. Here we are. In March, I'm going to knit a design with this. And originally, I wanted it to be like this 2-color sock pattern that has twisted stitches and slip stitches to create like this. I'll show you what I mean. I'll be right back. Okay, so I made these socks last spring when I was on my post-baby sock knitting craze, and this pattern is called Holly by Birgit Fryer. I think she's German, so it's not Bridget, because that's not how they say it in Germany. Maybe it is. I'm sorry if I'm butchering names and generalizations of countries and whatever, but I love this pattern. I just love it so much. It's so gorgeous. And so what this is every other row is knit in one color. You only ever use one color at a time, but through slip stitches and cables you make this pattern. And so I wanted to do something like that for in my mind I've been calling them my Max socks. I wanted to knit something like that, and I wanted it to look like children's drawing at first, because, you know, I was a kid a long time ago when he was sick, and so I have mostly impressions rather than specific memories of him for the most part, but I remember he was always drawing and coloring. They had this giant crayon, and there's this really cute picture of him at the coffee table with paper covering it, coloring with this big crayon almost the size of him. And he was always drawing, and in fact on his little pamphlet you get at funerals, the background of it was a drawing he did of a video game level. And so he loved drawing and he loved video games, and so I thought maybe I would make this sort of thing look like a kid's drawing, and then I thought maybe I would do it and make it look like a video game level, and then I thought maybe it'd be easier just to do color work that looks like a video game level, and I was trying to think maybe which one to do, or maybe draw from one of his. And I've always been, my whole life, okay, ever since his funeral, like looking at that paper, I was so impressed that he would just memorize the video game levels and draw them out. And I found out like last year that he was totally making them up. He was making up his own levels. He did not memorize the game and draw it out. I just felt so silly. Of course he did, but what was I? I was like 10 or 12. You know, I didn't know kids. But now that I have my own, I get it. But he, particularly, when I look back, I remember that they all played Banjo-Kazooie and they really liked that game. And I had never played it. And I was talking with my aunt, and she said that she can't play Mario Kart without thinking of him. So Mario Kart and Banjo-Kazooie were at least some of his favorites. And so I kind of scrapped my idea for doing like a slipped cable, but I'm keeping the color work, and I'm not going to make it look like a level, but I worked up some charts where I'm going to do some motifs. It's going to be a standard sock. There, I'll just hold it. A standard sock with like a motif of this big from Mario Kart and that big from Banjo-Kazooie, and then heel and flap and a plain foot. Because with a sock set, there's not actually a lot of these. So I want to use them for the color work, and it's not going to have contrast cuff, heel, or toes, and hopefully I'll have enough. And I've already done up the charting for that for 64 stitches, 72 stitches, and I think 80, maybe even 56. I might have done all 4 sizes, but I've done 3 for sure. So I want to call it Max Elijah Benjamin, because that was his name, and I want it to be in memory of him, to raise money for the Children's Stollery in Edmonton. Yeah, so that's my plans. I'm going to work on Sock Madness socks, work on the Max socks, and get that Torg pattern out. I'd really like to publish it this month or next month, because it's just zoomed right by. I've been working a lot on it. Okay, I forgot to talk about knit-alongs. So last podcast I mentioned that I was going to enter these Mock Sadness ankle socks and the Torg ankle socks into the Socks from Stash group, because their prompt was to knit from the 5 oldest sock yarns that you have. And so that's what I did, but the problem is it is only 1 month long, and so I got 3 out of 4 ankle socks knit, because they want you to either have 2 full-length pairs of socks, no, 1 full-length pair of socks, 2 ankle socks, or 4 pairs of baby socks. So I have 1 fully knit pair of ankle socks and 1 half knit, and I didn't finish it, so I couldn't enter that in. So somebody texted me. So I missed that one, and that's okay. I really like their prompt for March though, which I'm totally gonna do, and it is to make a poll. They have a thread going where everyone's making a poll of 3 to 5 patterns that you want to knit, and then you let everyone else choose what you're going to knit. And so I made my poll, and if you want to go vote on it, it's on page 4 of their poll thread in the Socks from Stash group on Ravelry, and I might just actually link it straight in the description. But in my poll, I put the Sock Madness qualifying sock because I want to do that one. It's coming up any day. Like if I check my email, it might already be there. They email you the pattern randomly. You're just waiting and sitting on the edge of your seat waiting for this pattern to come out. Which is why they have warm-up patterns, so that you're not going too crazy. So I have that one on there. I also have my own design based off of Mario Kart and Banjo-Kazooie, which is going to be for the Stollery. And I have one called Smitten with Paris, and it's this really cute sock pattern that has a little bit of color work, and it's designed based on like a box of chocolates from Paris or something. It's really cute. And then there is one called Coffee Cantata, which is by somebody whose name I don't know how to say, and I love it. It's full of cables. I probably won't actually knit that one right now, but I have the yarn from it, and it's actually this like brownish yellow yarn from Midnight Cravings called Afternoon Tea, and I think that it would be really perfect to show off all the cables on that pattern. And then the last one I have to vote is called Izern by General Hugbuffer, and my aunt knit this one, and I like the pattern so much. I think I actually asked her if I could inherit those socks, but they won't fit me. They're just so beautiful. I love hers, and I want to make my own. But so far on the poll, the Sock Madness qualifying round pattern and my own design are winning, which is good because those are the ones I actually want to knit the most this month. And so it's March, so there's a whole new set of class prompts on the Harry Potter Knit and Crochet House Cup group. I entered in the Torg anklets, my Sock Madness anklet, all the baby stuff that I knit. I entered all that in last month. I felt really accomplished to have more than one class and more classes than detention, so that was really good. There's no prizes for that group. It's just for fun and imaginary badges and stuff. But it really is fun. It's fun to have this extra nudge to push you to do something you kind of already want to do. But something that I struggle with, I need to be careful of, is I really waffle between working obsessively on things or not doing anything at all. Which is why I really am trying to embrace a slow pace, because I don't want to do nothing, and I don't want to work obsessively. Like it's really easy to look at designers who are coming out with stuff all the time and think, well, I gotta be like that if I want to get anywhere, so I work obsessively on stuff and my family life suffers. And the thing it's so easy to forget about is I'm looking at people who have been at this for years, who have streamlined their design process, and these designs have been in the works for months and months, and I'm not there yet, and that's okay, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be there, and that's okay too. I need to work at the pace that I can right now. Everyone has to work for their season, and my season of life is baby and little kids and homeschooling, so I can't work obsessively. It really isn't good for me or my family, and I can't do nothing. I can do nothing. I could just not design, but really that just makes me sad, and it makes me feel like, well, I can't do anything I want because of whatever. And no, the slow pace is about fitting it in so it works, so we can all be happy and love what we do. I want to find that balance of a slow pace, of when that works. Like, slow doesn't have to mean it's snails, but it also means like embrace where you're at, figure out what you need, and work it around what you got going. So I love these prompt groups and knitting challenge groups, but I know myself that I just, obsess and do all the things, and I don't want to do all the things. I do want to do all the things. want to make plans. I'm a planner. I love to plan, but I need to make stuff that is reasonable so that I'm not like, well, I never make all my plans. I just suck. No, I overplan. I plan too much for, me to do, even if I wasn't chasing kids around. So I make the prompts and challenges work for me. I don't stay up till 2 a.m. every night so that I could finish, for instance, the Sock Madness warm-up socks, so that I could put all 4 of these socks in the socks from Stash Group. I guess I didn't make it, and I had a lot of stuff. I did a lot of things. I finished so many things this month. I do not normally work at this pace, so even though I have been not amped up to 10, I have been knitting at a lot more almost obsessive pace than I normally do. And that's part of kind of the undulations of life, is I'm in a knitting peak, probably there'll be a knitting trough, peak and trough, and that's normal. That's how everything goes. I'm hoping to get some of these designs out before my knitting mojo kind of ebbs away. It's really natural for our interest to ebb and flow, and so we talk on Instagram a lot about losing our knitting mojo or getting our knitting mojo back, and I think that's really normal. I think especially if you are prone to seasons of obsessiveness, it's really likely if you obsess, you're going to burn out. And so what I'm trying to do is kind of bring the obsessiveness, like instead of here, have it here. Have this high knitting mojo that might come down, instead of down to here with nothing, to come down to like just a low, maybe one thing, and then maybe a bit more, and then low. So that's part of working at a slower pace for me, means a more sustainable pace, so that instead of having these, I'm busting out 10 things and then nothing for 3 months, I want to just do it, there we go, just do it more like that, at a more reasonable, sustainable pace. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of you who can really relate to that. It works that way with anything, There's a normal, natural undulation to things, and it's grasping hold of that and making it work for you. I think that's important. And I'm really just learning this. I feel like I learn it again and again, but I'm really trying now to believe it and hold on to it and not burn out. So yeah, I hope that you guys can figure something out that works for you too, a pace that works. When you make your goals, make them ones that you're gonna finish and be really proud of, instead of ones where you're gonna do 3/4 of it or half of it and go, never mind what I got done, look what I didn't do. No. Choose the slower pace. I want to have fun and do what I love, and not at the expense of the people I love. I don't have anything more to say about that right now. I think I just wanted to share what I've been thinking about this lately with you, and invite you to think about it for yourself as well. Or maybe if you have tips or experiences that you want to share about learning these sort of things, feel free to comment or send me a message about that. I want to say thank you so much to everybody who has been watching and commenting or everything. Thank you so much. It's really fun and a joy to do this. I was so excited for today's. I couldn't wait to talk about the things I've been knitting, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone who is returning, and welcome to everyone who's new. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye for now.